Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga Texas construction update video. Now turning our attention to some recent developments here at Giga Texas. On the southeast corner, next to where stamping is located, these 4 tanks started to be assembled onto a reinforced slab. Now, I'm not exactly sure what these are for. However, my Patreon Desi Doolin thinks he has a good idea. And we're going to have to go back in time and take a look at some early construction here at Giga Texas to find out. Back in April of 2021, the paint shop on the north end of Giga Texas was under construction, as you can see by this image. And where the arrows are located, the bases and also wall segments of very similar tanks to what we're seeing on the southeast side were under construction. And you can tell that they are kind of hidden behind these steel studs that were part of the walls that were being installed at that time. And you get a good look here as we fly by of those tanks under construction. Now on the second floor, we see that modular paint system that has been installed. And at that time, a lot of this was Dur and also TKS paint systems, very similar to what we see today. Coming back to present day, on the far west side in a material staging location, you can see all of these white packaged items and the TKS trailer. There's been a number of other equipment just like this loaded up into the second floor of the body in white, very close to where the tanks are located. And with the TKS modular paint system being installed in this portion of the factory and these tanks, it makes me really wonder, what is going on here, and are we seeing yet another place where we're going to have another paint system installed? Also, this entire south end has been somewhat of a mystery. There's some very interesting design elements to this factory, especially considering that there may be a boring tunnel coming in here. There's also 2-meter tall bases to the columns that are being installed, and additional other features that make it a unique portion of the factory. So makes me wonder what exactly we would be seeing here, and what would be the purpose for Giga Texas to be building out the south side in this manner. So anyway, I hope that you enjoyed this discussion and comparing back into April of 2021, the paint shop construction, and what we're seeing today, and maybe it gives us a hint of what we can expect in the future. So now let's get into the drone. Let's see what Giga Texas looks like today. If you would like to support my efforts, please consider using these links, which will be in the video description. If you are interested in Tesla products, you can help yourself and support me by using my referral code. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons on my YouTube video, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga Texas. It's a beautiful morning to fly here at Giga Texas. Good looks at the south end and across the highway. And I wanted to start here on the southwest corner of the main site, kind of a gravel road underneath the bridge. Some work on that outfall channel is continuing. Also, the excavation work for that HDPE pipe is underway as well, and mostly completed. Now, looking at the south end, we see a lot of activity, including the assembly of another part of the steel structure, and we'll get some good views of that here shortly. The bottom of the screen, you can see that earthwork section just south of River Road and how it looks, and a good view of the southeast corner with all of the glass installed so far. And we'll get some other close-up views of that as well. Now, there is still some steel assembled here on the southeast side, waiting for movement and assembly onto the main building, but not as much because of all of the construction and assembly that has taken place. So this end structure extension is really starting to shape up. Now, as I zoom in, you get a good view of those glass panes and some of the preparation work to extend that to both floors. And then on this original southeast corner, the steel tanks continue to be assembled and welded together. There are now 3 of those sheet wall panels high, and there are more of them along the edges of the site. So I don't know, maybe we'll see this getting any taller. So very cool to see, good views here. with that zoom in and then of the overall southeast corner, looking down into the tanks and how this looks right now as that assembly process continues. So while we're here, let's bring the drone back up, take a look at the construction site of this extension from this vantage point. And also a lot of the roof decking is being installed today. At the bottom of the screen, we see more footing construction underway. And these are to complete this section, which didn't have those done. We can also see very clearly the column bases on the right side are low right at the ground, and on the left where the steel is about 2 meters above the ground. So very different approach. Good view here of the roof decking as it's being installed, the cyber pond, and looking across River Road at that earthwork section. So I'm going to bring the drone back around and we'll get a good close-in view of the work that is going on here on the southeast corner with all of the materials on the ground, but as I mentioned, not as much. And then we see the work going on here, installing more of the glass panes. Now you'll note that the columns here are all painted black, and that's on both the bottom and the second floor. And that's because this is going to be entirely glass, and wherever they have glass, they'll paint the columns black. So that is what we are seeing underway. There's this other section where you can see the crews walking on that shiny concrete. That's recently been poured, and they're continuing to expand the building towards the west. And speaking of expansion, we see this kind of a gazebo setting up here and a good close-in view. Some of the steel beams being lifted up and installed by the crews right now. Also a very good sense of scale if you take a look at the workers and the size of the beams, and it gives you a pretty good idea. But looks like they've decided to start the west side steel assembly, and then it will merge together, making that new extension all one piece at some point in the near future. Good view of the perimeter grade beam work, some of the steel being stored. Actually looks like there may be a bridge crane rail on the ground there, and then of course more of the work next to the base of the original wall with footings and some smaller concrete walls kind of being put in around this entire area. So really good view here of the work that continues, and they're finishing up the perimeter grade beam here in this one corner. As we move towards the temporary loading platforms on the right, you can see that textured materials being put on that temporary or that wall with the yellow. And then here on the top of the temporary loading platform, we see it looks like debris from unwrapped and unpackaged more equipment. And of course that interior kind of a plastic temporary wall section. On this side, we see about 10 or so Cybertrucks being stored on this temporary site, and there'll be more to see on the east side. So as we look across the highway, we'll approach in where the boring company is setting up their operations. In addition to that, we see some trenching on the right for some electrical conduit. And as I move the drone around here, we see the Proofrock 3 partially assembled next to the trailers on the bottom left. We see the cement silos and the devices that are being set up there with some of the tanks and the trailers. That's for the grout that'll be used for the boring operation. And we see that white item with kind of the black belts on top. That's the belt cassette, also known as a conveyor system, which brings that dirt out from the boring operation. We also see some trailers with some very large fans and some other equipment near that area wrapped in blue. I don't see a lot of activity at this point in time on this early morning, but we're probably still a couple of weeks out before we see that boring tunnel being dug. So something to continue to watch and see when that actually happens. As we proceed to the far southwest corner, it's a good view of this triangular former parking lot. Looks like some more of the gravel mix is being removed on the left-hand side. We have that temporary road connecting to the other parking lot, and then more of the steel items being stored here for the south end extension of the building. On this material storage yard, good view of all of the items here. Take a closer look again at these blue wrapped items. I was really trying to see if I can read some of the labels or some of the pictures that are on these blue wrappings, but I really can't. But still think that this is part of another stamping machine that will be associated with the next gen vehicle. The TKS paint system continues to have more of these white wrapped items delivered, very large, and these are modular paint systems that I suspect will be installed in the south end extension at some point. We see here more of the superchargers being prepared for eventual installation. There's going to be some more superchargers installed on this side of the site in addition to the ones we see just on the south end of the end-of-line facility. Maybe it'll be here somewhere in the outbound lot, which you can see is well marked now with all the paint markings. Soon we should start seeing some of the lighting systems being installed. As we continue to move our way towards the end-of-line facility, you get a good sense of the materials that are being stored here temporarily. Also, looks like some earthwork on this large mound of dirt has been added recently, so we'll have to monitor, see what that is for. And then as we continue to get closer to the south end of the end-of-line facility where all the superchargers are, we see 32 of them here, but there's at least another 32 superchargers waiting for installation somewhere in this south site. Also, this accordion truck is bringing in some materials that are associated with the operations inside the facility, and those are being unloaded today as well. As I pull away, it's a good view of this current supercharger installation, and at some point there will be a canopy over this site. And then we also see some more of the electrical conduit boxes on the bottom of the screen and more on this east side preparing for probably paving, and we also see the concrete curbs have been installed as well. So I'll bring the drone up over the building and we'll take a look at this west side. The section with the trench work is still finishing up for the lighting system, and that whole yard is being used for some of the equipment and trailers. The HVAC system installation, plus what looks like maybe some air compressor tanks, continues to have the installation done. We also see curbing being installed on the north end of the building. And then as I move the drone around, we see that earthwork on the left. We see this last section of the outbound lot getting some of that trenching, and eventually this will be paved as well. And we'll have all those trenches completed, and then that'll be for the lighting system. As I mentioned, you can see the curbs that are being installed here on the north end. Some more trench work as well, and of course the open vaults where the electrical conduit comes from the main factory to this site. So quite a bit of activity getting this facility done, and as I've mentioned, this facility in the outbound lot is critical to increase the production ramp here at Giga Texas. So a good view of the west side of the factory. Let's cross back over the highway and let's take a look at some additional work that's going on here at the main entrance. And as always, there's construction seemingly a perpetual here, and near the road we see a small excavation with a kind of a form being applied and some other wood materials around. So I'm not sure exactly what they're putting in, but one more modification that will go along with this west main entrance. As we fly a little towards the north, we see the temporary end of line, some of the Model Ys coming out of the factory, newly made, and these will eventually be moved over to that east side. So I'm going to bring the drone up and let's take a look at some of the activity on the roof today. The vents that you see in the upper right are going to be very similar to what we see being constructed here. They've removed the roof decking and the materials on top. We get a good sense of what is going on down below. Some very large pipes that connect different parts of the factory, and of course some of the chiller units that are already installed at the base, and we will eventually see the ventilation ducts applied here, very similar to the one we saw at the just before we started the turnaround over that site. So there's going to be a lot more of that here. The multi-level parking garage continues to grow. They continue to put the steel mesh on the roof section and preparing for that to have concrete flow and fill out this entire section. And so it's a good close-in view. I also see the staircase on the left, and on the upper left we see the staircase and elevators being put in for this portion of the factory. We see the ramps for the vehicles to come up different floors and also go back down for the exits in that middle section. I expect to see another section of those vehicle ramps right at the bottom of the screen once the facility gets to this point. We also get a chance to see another double T panel being lifted up and being added into this new section. My previous video, the section that you see here was not built. They were adding in the columns. You can also see the double columns where the expansion joint is for the factory, for the parking garage is located very close to where the workers are. So they've made a lot of progress in just the last 48 hours on this portion of the parking garage. As I pull away is a good view of more of the entire facility as it looks today. And again, on the upper right is where that elevator shaft and also some of the stairs are located. Good view of the footings in the middle of the section. There's some trenching being done around that entire area as well. So soon we'll see the building approaching that section. And I've had some people ask, it's a very large parking garage, and the answer is absolutely. It's probably going to be the third largest one in the world. So as I bring the drone down here to give you a good view of some of the materials, also the road work and more excavation work associated with the underground storm water pipes. And this gives you a really good view of how this is developing. And again, there'll be a road here eventually with a median, so probably 2 lanes on either side, and it'll connect this existing road where the bend in the road is located with River Road on the south end. And here's a good view of more of the earthwork in this particular area as well, with that temporary road that continues to snake around this side of the site. Some interesting developments here on the testing and calibration lot. First, at the wind tunnel, we see a Model Y put up onto that movable platform, and it looks like it's undergoing some sort of wind tunnel testing. I'm not exactly sure what they are testing it for, but you give a good view of what that looks like here. That turntable allows them to change the angle of the vehicle to the flow of the air, and probably for whatever test considerations that they are doing. We see a lot of Cybertrucks lined up here in the middle of the testing and calibration lot, along with many of the Model Ys. And a good view here of about 8 of them in the middle. And we see 5 more supercharging. And earlier when I was taking photos, I saw more of the Cybertrucks driving around in this area. So pretty good to see this many in the testing and calibration lot, and I would expect to see more and more of them as the production continues to ramp up. But we see on the left-hand side of the screen where the new vehicles enter the lot, the testing track on the bottom, and then they are finishing up their testing and calibration before they move over here to the outbound lot. And we see quite a bit of activity with trucks picking up vehicles today. Cybertrucks and Model Ys intermixed throughout the entire area. Several trucks with Cybertrucks and the Model Ys loaded up here. Here's a good close-in view of how this looks. And again, you can see more of the Cybertrucks in the middle of the Model Ys as well. And as I continue to keep the zoom in here and show you the activity going on, you can see the trucks on the top of the screen also have Cybertrucks. So looks like production is still moving along pretty well, but again, it's hard to know exact numbers, and that'll be something we'll continue to track into February to try to get a good handle on that. The East Warehouse on Wheels looks to me like it's actually shrinking to some degree, and that may be related to the West Warehouse on Wheels expansion. Another thing I noticed that is going on here, superchargers are being moved around. On this section, we have these mobile superchargers with what I think is mega packs. And on the upper left, we see superchargers being moved as well. I believe these are the ones that were stored on the far east, and I'll take a look at that here shortly in the video. And they're heading over to the west side end of line, where I talked about more superchargers would be installed at some point in the near future. As I fly over this part of the east lot, we can see another section getting earthwork on the left and center of the screen. Now, not sure if this is going to be just more gravel area for parking, or if they're preparing for more trailers or some other purpose. In this small corner next to the fence line, this is where the superchargers used to be stored. You can see the lines on the ground where they were resting, and now they're heading over to the west side. At the battery cathode plant complex of structures, one of the things I wanted to give you a good view on here is the south end of the crash test facility. See that excavation? Now it looks like some, I don't know if that's mud base, probably been poured, and they're going to put forms and rebar, and then there's going to be a new structure here with some sort of pole with that footing that we see under construction. We also note that they continue to clear out the east side of materials, and the crews are working on this water detention pond with the filtration system as well. And most of the inflow and outflow channels look like they're in concrete also. As we take a look at the east side, again, most of the materials have been cleared out now, so it's rapidly becoming less and less of a material storage yard now. And we also see this expanded section of earthwork, and it looks to me like it's being prepared for some sort of construction, not just a parking lot. And be worth watching what goes on. At the testing and calibration lot, we see more of the workshops on the bottom left and kind of that green tarp. We see that new brown office trailer and more of the materials around this site as well. In the northeast corner, earthwork continues in that far north area. Most of those small islands that had the power poles and lines are now gone, and we see a good view of the materials being stored in that large rectangular field. As I bring the drone back down, good view of the materials, some of those stainless steel tanks on the left, and the continued presence of these kind of silver items at the bottom right. And still, I haven't seen them move yet. I'm kind of curious what part of the die shop or the battery cathode plant they will be heading into. The earthwork on the north end of the cathode plant, it looks like most of that has been spread out, although there is another trench going on near the lift station, and more of the dirt is being spread out and prepared on this west side for what I will believe will be more asphalt paving in the near future. As we come up towards the chiller plant on the left-hand side of the screen on the ground, we see more of that area has been prepared. The bottom trenching looks like they're getting ready for concrete. In fact, the concrete trucks just arrived, so that should be filled in by the next video. And then through the alleyway, this gives you a good view of remaining concrete work, plus also with all the concrete finished here being used as a parking lot and also sort of a material staging yard for some of those large wooden crates that are Grobe automation equipment that have been delivered and being installed in the die shop. As we reposition the drone at a little bit higher altitude, I'll give you a good view into the alleyway again from this perspective. Also the die shop and just how these two facilities look today. Checking out the temporary electrical switch yard and the continued disassembly work that is underway. See many of the steel items being stored just south of the fence and off to the left. And we also get a chance to see how much of the equipment has been removed here. Looking at the ground, you can see some of the marks where equipment used to be. Still have these three control trailers and that cable tray trench in the middle with that kind of a concrete T. But soon we should see the items on the A-frames removed and then the A-frames themselves removed. So several more weeks and this site may be completely gone. And they're doing that because, of course, the new electrical switchyard is fully operational now, with some work still remaining on that south end slab next to the 2 control trailers. As I bring the drone up over the power lines to give you a good view here of the Megapack site, I've had some viewers say that they think that it's possible the Megapacks are connected to the factory itself, but these disconnects here on the north that you can see still open in the middle of the screen are for the grid. So it's hard to tell for sure, but it is possible maybe that the Megapacks are supporting Giga Texas, but just not the grid right now. So we'll continue to monitor that and see how any other developments come up that we can maybe discern when it is connected to the grid. As we pop back over the power lines, give you a good view here of the factory itself, and I'll bring it back down so we can look on the east side and see some of the activity and changes that are going on here. Now there is some earthwork on the bottom of the screen underneath the power poles, but most of the work is on this widened berm that you can see with the workers. It's also where the electrical conduit is and the wiring is being installed. We can see it looks like a truck delivery, possibly. It's more of the compressed natural gas, and it looks like they're doing some connections there. And we also see more of the materials waiting for installation, plus some of the rear Cybertruck castings, and then with these casting racks, a mix of Cybertruck and Model Ys. We also see these 2 natural gas tanks and some of the systems on the right, as well as some generators, and of course more of the area here where electrical wires being connected through the conduits, and they're finishing up that next to the perimeter grade beam of the main building. As we continue to fly to the south, the concrete apron here still needs work, but they have the receiving doors mostly completed. It looks like here next to this concrete area, those black items are more of those shrouds that go on the outside of some of those receiving docks. And hopefully we'll see this section completed soon. I know they've been working on this for quite some time. As we fly up over the power lines again, I'll bring the drone down and give you a good view of the continued work with the ducting, the ducted fans, and some of the filtration units that are going on here as part of an enhanced ventilation system for the casting machine area. And you can see some more of the ductwork on the bottom getting ready for installation. This is how it looks when they are mostly completed. And they're continuing to work from the north to the south to finish up this entire installation. But it's great to see that most of it is now installed. I'm going to take this opportunity to show you the section of roof, which is actually over the 4680 battery cell production area that has had some problems. There's been some leakage. It has affected a little bit of production, but right now it looks like you can tell that they have sections that are being repaired along some of the seams. The bricks are still holding down parts of that membrane. There will be additional work to secure that membrane down and fix whatever other leaks that they can find. And again, you can see more of those clean stripes where they've been doing some of that work. And on the left-hand side, you can see the ripples in the membrane, and that shows you how it had separated from that kind of that firewall that separates the 4680 section and the general assembly and also the structural pack section of the building. So hopefully they get that under control very soon. I'll drop back down and show you this ramp, the one that we've been tracking for a while that has been removed, all the walls, some ponded water still, but no real change. They have that temporary door, and right in there is General Assembly Line 1. Along the section of the 4680 on the outside, we see some pump work going on with some of the pipes, and we'll continue to wrap around the building, and we'll take a look at some of the activity on the north end. Just after I finished this video, I noticed a concrete truck had pulled up to this open door, and they were preparing for concrete pour in this section of the factory. Also, I wanted to give you a good view of the new elevators that have been installed. These are kind of construction elevators. You can see the scaffolding or the truss going up on the top. That's how it goes up and down, and you can see the doors open. So this aids with the moving of materials. Also see some other items being lowered by the crane. The dumpsters still have items that are showing some concrete and other construction projects. And then we see the other elevator on the left-hand side of the platform. So the site here, building out the 4680 production facility and increasing its capacity, continues. So I'll bring the drone up to a higher altitude. I'll do a large reveal of the entire site to end the video today. But this gives you a good view of much of the site that we visited today. You can see across the highway that end-of-line facility where the boring company is making the tunnel. Also the outbound lot. You can see the multi-level parking garage, some of that road work on the left, the east warehouse on wheels, the employee parking lot and the overflow lot, and of course the die shop, battery cathode plant, and the crash test facility. So I hope you enjoyed what we talked about in the intro and also what we saw in the video. As always, thank you very much for your support. Have a great week.